the industrial parks. Yes, the government is working with us. The Minister of Trade is a friend to manufacturing. And she's working assiduously to improve on some of the conditions that exist. There are new parks, the Phoenix Park, these things are good things, but some of our manufacturers who are existing on existing parks, who are operating in existing parks, they need to see the efficiencies there as well. The road, the infrastructure, the security, these things need to be fixed in the existing parks as well.
To what extent these things can be tackled successfully, but they're not being? I mean, what do you see as to what is holding back improvements in these areas?
Well, I don't want to think that we can't fix these things. I believe that we can't, but what is holding it back is probably some of the inefficiencies that is inherent in the system, you know. There are significant bureaucracies. I mean, we need to digitalize a lot of the things that we have in place. Why today we still have to line up outside of immigration to get a passport? Why we still have to get our driver's permit and have lines and delays? All these inefficiencies that exist in the system, all these bureaucracies that exist in the system exist because somebody benefits from it. And we need to understand that, and we need to remove that bureaucracy, allow for greater efficiencies. But it's hard to do that when there are people benefiting from some of those inefficiencies that exist. That's the real issue, you know, and it's not necessarily the government. You can't blame government for something like that. It's the people who work in the system. We really and truly had to figure out that what are the advantages of removing the inefficiencies and what are the disadvantages. Some people weigh the disadvantages as more favorable to them because they benefit from those disadvantages that allow for them to benefit from.
Well, to a great extent, isn't it a government action that is required?
Government action is required. Yes, I'm not disputing that. I don't want to exonerate government from blame, you know, but you could create all the legislation and policy that you want. At the end of the day, the government minister is not sitting down to execute. So we need all hands on deck. We need good, proper legislation. We need effective laws, but we do have some laws in place. So you know, we need to ensure that the laws that are there are working optimally. There are laws about pollution, about noise pollution, and all these different things. Are they really being executed and carried out efficiently? Would more laws solve that problem for those people who are being distressed, you know, at this time because of Carnival? We just have to find a way to ensure Trinidad is too nice a place. We need to find a way to ensure that those of us who love Carnival could enjoy that, and those who don't and don't want to be exposed to that noise, they too could survive in the environment. But we have to figure out a way to ensure that we're all happy in our nice little place that is called Trinidad and Tobago.
You think there are people who look at the numbers and say, well, why are we fussing? If we could to have the kind of figures like these, increases in the value of exports, 68.7%, increases to 70% in 2021 over 2020, and 68% 2022 over 21. What are we making noise about?
Well, Andy, if you increase 2 by 100%, that is 4. So we need to increase 1 million by 50%. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. So listen, Trinidad and Tobago, we know we live in a dual economy, and we know we're benefiting now from external shocks that are allowing the energy sector to do well. But we know that is not necessarily sustainable. We don't know what's going to happen in the not too distant future with regards to the Russia-Ukraine situation. Winter will pass us again, and the demand and the drop in our energy supplies might fall. Production is not where it's supposed to be. It's not optimal. And I'm saying all this to say that the energy sector cannot sustainably carry us in the future. We have to find ways to prop up Trinidad and Tobago economy. And the one proven way is the non-energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago, the non-energy export. I am not saying it's the only sector we need to look at. There are other sectors, the tourism sector, the financial sector. Those are sectors that will speak for themselves when you have them on the show to say why that they could carry the economy. But I can tell you that in Trinidad and Tobago, and from a TTMA perspective, we produce some of the best quality goods in Trinidad and Tobago. We export. We have manufacturers, exporting to well over 80 countries in the world. We have the Angosturas, the Ansa Macal Group, the Associated Brand, the Bermudas Group. And beside those larger ones, we have smaller companies that are doing extremely well, in new areas, the Lazari and Textile, Camry Glass and Camry with tempered glass. We have a lot of manufacturers are breaking through it in the CARICOM market within the Southern Hemisphere, exports into Latin America, Central America, and North America as well. So I firmly believe that we need to push the envelope, go beyond what our capabilities are right now, because we have the capacity to do it. Yes, we're doing well, but we're doing well at numbers that wouldn't move us in a particular direction to sustain ourselves. So we're seeing 20, 30, 40% growth. The IMF is saying 68%, but 68% of numbers that wouldn't really and truly move the needle significantly to sustain high standard of living in Trinidad and Tobago. That is why at the end of the day, the base figure of exports need to move from where it is now to a much higher figure, because, as I said, 50% of 2 is really and truly 1. But 50% of 10 is 5. So we need to move that base figure of 2 to let it to be 10 and that kind of thing. And then we could talk about the increases in production from the base figure.
Right, and I think I think everybody should be so supportive of and congratulatory of the way in which you break it down, because a lot of times things get hidden with numbers, and that's what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask about so the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce had their annual end of the year ceremony it's a couple of weeks ago, and to me it was striking that the sort of trailblazing organizations who got recognition, who got awards, were essentially small business people. A husband and wife team making ice cream, Casey Confectionery, and the Langston Roach Industries, and so on. It says something different about businesses being recognized. In days gone by, it would have been the big business organizations getting all these awards. What do you think is the significance of that? The recognition of small, not even micro enterprises to some extent, not even small.
Well, Andy, I don't want to speak for the chamber and how they put together their awards, but I can say that generally that the small and the micro enterprise sector in Trinidad and Tobago is the engine of growth.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, they are the people who are employing persons. And if you look at some of the persons who won award, Casey Confectionery, they are doing exceptionally well in the export market. They're penetrating new market. But not only that, they are diversifying their portfolio, producing new products, innovating in their marketing strategies. A&J, the ice cream producers, and these people who won awards are members of the TTM. I should mention that as well.
Right.
That company is doing exceptionally well. That small ice cream company showed at TIC, as a small micro operator a couple of years ago. And today, look where they are. And they continue to push the envelope, produce innovative and indigenous flavors from Trinidad and Tobago. They have doubles ice cream and a number of creative ideas. So they are deserving. And Langston, which of course, he's a pioneer from where he started, selling outside the trunks of his car with detergents. And today, he's one of the leading detergent manufacturers in Trinidad and Tobago. He and his son, Sean Roach, and these guys are doing marvelous, wonderful job. They're expanding within the Caribbean region significantly to Jamaica, throughout the Caribbean islands. I don't want to identify one. They are doing exceptionally well. So they're very deserving of these awards.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to get at. So the face of when people think about the TTCIC, you thought of big business, you thought of McInerney, Alstons, and the rest of it,
right.
Massey and so on. But the face of business, in a serious sense, is changing, and the action seems to be with small business and the greater development of small business. That's what I'm trying to get at. So that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Andy. And a lot of emphasis is being placed by the BSOs in Trinidad and Tobago, the chambers, the TTMA, the coalition, AmCham, and the respective chambers in various districts and counties in Trinidad and Tobago to help the SME sector. One of our mandate coming out of the COVID is to ensure survivability of these agencies and these organizations and then growth. in 2021, our mandate for a mantra to TME was sustainability for the SME sectors in Trinidad and Tobago. In 2022, we looked to propel growth of the SME sector in Trinidad and Tobago. The larger players will more or less take care of themselves. They are relatively insulated because of economies of scale and economies of scope. So we place a lot of emphasis to ensure hand-holding, support, technical support, financial support, and a number of different programs created, not just by the BSOs, by the Export TT and the Exim Bank, foreign exchange facility, and these kind of things were made available to ensure that these companies, these entities were able to access foreign exchange so they could continue to source their inputs into manufacturing. So these things just didn't happen like that. It was strategic planning by the TTMA and the Chamber and these people when we sit down with the policymakers to ensure some of these measures were put in place to allow, in the first instance, as I said, survivability of these companies coming out of the COVID, and now sustainability and growth of these manufacturing, SME manufacturers in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and the point I'm trying to make is that it's a good thing to see the sort of the profile of businesses now being recognized for what they do and contributing to the economy. So if it's one thing that you would like to see bettered and fixed for your sector in 2023, what would that be?
Well, that's easy to say crime, right? We all want crime to be fixed. There are two ways about it, not just for business, but to live in a comfortable environment. But beyond that, what we would like to see happen in Trinidad and Tobago is that we are cognizant of the business community, and we're not placing additional burdens on them. We're hearing about the potential increase in electricity rate and all these different things that are on the horizon. And one is not saying that these businesses should be exempted from such things, but to move from zero to exorbitant percentage, will erode the existing competitiveness that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. Because really and truly, let's face it, one of the major advantage we have in Trinidad and Tobago as manufacturers is our relatively cheap electricity rate. We can't say our labor rates are cheaper than Central America, Latin America, and the rest of the Caribbean. We can't even say our productivity is much more competitive relative to our Caribbean neighbors, brothers and sisters, because when we bring in some of the immigrant workers to work, you see their productivity, is much higher. So our real competitive advantage, to some extent, I would say one of our real competitive advantage, because there are more than one, is our relatively cheap electricity rate, and we need to be careful how we tinker with that, because it could erode competitiveness and curtail and put a spoke in the wheel of all the success we have in the export market. So I would say that we need to really have some conversation around that with the RIC and the policymakers and those in authority to ensure that when, not if, but when that rate comes, when that increase comes, because we know it's on the horizon, it's a collaborative effort, and we have buy-in and support from everybody who's involved in the process. And we're not just doing one thing, cutting our nose to spoil our face, trying to get revenue in one aspect, and we creating a sort of like a life sentence for the manufacturing sector, especially the SME sector in Trinidad.
Right, and then you put that on top of the high and rising prices of the cost of dealing with crime, but also you have the narrative in the rest of the region with whom we compete, with whom people like you compete, when they say that you all have an advantage going in because of low and subsidized energy rates. But that's a topic for a different discussion.
Well, I'm not going to discuss subsidize and subsidy rates or anything like that. I mean, we from Trinidad and Tobago, we from an energy-based economy, and if we're producing, energy, we are allowed to benefit as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and it's not really only for Trinidad and Tobago citizens, but any company come here and set up in Trinidad and Tobago, they benefit from that. So it's not just nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. If an investor from any country comes and sets up in Trinidad and Tobago, he benefits from that rate as well. So I mean, there are many other advantages that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. Access to capital, lending rates are much cheaper. And I would say there's a bigger advantage to some of our CARICOM neighbors. People, we can borrow in Trinidad and Tobago at the bank, meaning the business sector. And depending on who I are and the leverage that you have, at relatively comfortable rates. In other countries within the Caribbean region is high double-digit figure interest rates that you're borrowing at. So that in itself, access to capital is a significant advantage, but we can't discount the fact that the energy prices are plays a part as well in enhancing our efficiencies.
All right, so you led a mission to Guyana sometime earlier in the year. What was the objective of that? What do you think will come out of it?
Well, you know, a lot of people probably saying that is within the recent past we're going to Guyana, but Guyana has always been a significant market for us in Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica continues to be our largest export destination in CARICOM, but Guyana is second, you know, is right behind Jamaica, and not just today, but always is talking about 700,000 persons in Guyana. We also went to Suriname. But we can't fool ourselves. We need to appreciate what is happening in Guyana. The economic growth that is taking place in Guyana is phenomenal. You know, it's estimated to grow 40, 50%, this year, if I'm not mistaken. And we could benefit from that. I mean, if the country is showing some level of affluency and growth, and their taste, their pattern, their consumption patterns, their attraction of tourists and all these things, why it can't be Trinidad and Tobago products, Trinidad and Tobago food and beverage and snacks, and they're going to take some time to get their level of competencies up to a certain standard for their tourists and their people who now want better quality goods, better standard goods. And as I said earlier on in the conversation with you, Trinidad and Tobago are producing world-class quality goods and services, you know, packaging and everything that we produce in Trinidad and Tobago. I can tell you most of the goods that are produced have to be packaged, and not just in Trinidad, throughout the region. And they look to Trinidad and Tobago to be the leaders in the packaging material, the labeling material and those kind of things. So once Guyana is doing well, once the Caribbean is doing well, once the tourists start to come back, there's no reason why a rising tide can raise all ship, and we need to be well positioned to take advantage of those things, and that speaks to one of the reasons why we look at Guyana and will continue to look at Guyana as a key destination for exports coming out of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, from me, I think it's unfortunate that we have to end it there, this edition this morning. But thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh Ramdeen, CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. Good talking with you this morning.
Thank you, Andy, for again having me on the show, and all the best for the new year. I think this is the first time I'm speaking to you for the new year, so all the best. Have a great one.
Thank you very much. You too. We will take a break. When we come back much more on the other side, we try and treat you to at least one of the pieces we have in our regional look around the region before we get to Mr. Dexter Sandy, band leader, something called Iconic Mass. What's that? We will find out. Stay with us. This is AM Prime.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to the program. My notes say that we are in the countdown for the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival 2023, and we are discussing in this edition of the program the business side of Carnival. We focus on Trinidad and Tobago, and according to chairman of the Carnival Mass Band Association there, Gemma Bedlow, an allocation of $1.3 million was agreed upon to be allocated. We are joined now by band leader of Iconic Mass, Mr. Dexter Sandy. He's talking about the opting of not bringing out a band for Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival since he participated in Tobago's inaugural Carnival. Instead, Mr. Sandy is hosting a series of events called Soca After Mass. Good to see you, sir.
Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Andy, and good morning to your viewers.
All right. Soca After Mass, it's something you like people leaving church somewhere and going to party. That's not it?
Soca After Mass is really a continuation of your Carnival season, just beyond Carnival Tuesday, right? Because our series, it begins from Ash Wednesday and it goes right up until the Sunday. It's 5 days of different events, a mixture of rest, relaxation, live entertainment, and it's just a space to be good right after Carnival.
Yeah. It ages one a bit, but you're probably not in that category, because there was a time when I was growing up, there used to be a thing called Fen Lent, that you, from Ash Wednesday until Good Friday, you couldn't be seen or heard singing a calypso or whistling anything that had to do with the stuff of the world, because you got clouted for that, because Lent was Lent, but that has changed significantly and you know, fundamentally over the decades. So you have what you call now Soca After Mass, starting Ash Wednesday.
Yes. The world has changed, I would say, Andy. And yes, traditionally in the household, you were told not to sing any form of calypso or participate in any form of mass activity from the strike of Ash Wednesday midnight.
Yeah, they didn't even play them on the radio. I mean, I think I could remember when calypsos first began to be played on Ash Wednesday and after Carnival was over. So this is a new world.
Correct. But the generation that we have now, we have sort of shifted the paradigm, and they are open to participating in these types of activities. And Soca After Mass gives the Tobago public the ability to come out and be entertained by those premium artists who would otherwise be tied up in Trinidad throughout the season. Yes, we do have some small shows happening on the island within the months of January and February, but right after Ash Wednesday is a prime period for one, Tobagoans to be able to benefit from that class of entertainment, and two, to encourage the domestic tourism shift to Tobago. We encourage the person who would have played mass, who would have actually partied for the entire season, to come to Tobago and have a mixture of rest and relaxation and entertainment.
Yeah, and you're talking also about, you didn't mention it, but certainly the people who would have come from abroad in Trinidad or in Tobago and staying on longer a little bit for that.
Yes, definitely. And Soca After Mass, we started this in 2019. And it was a one-day event at Ash Wednesday cool down. And at that event, a lot of people asked, why not extend it? Because a lot of the same foreigners, they weren't able to transition to the island so quickly, just in one day. All right? And we know the challenges there with the air bridge and the sea bridge. So what we decided to do is take the risk and run it for a 5-day period. Primarily, we know the participation at Ash Wednesday will be a more of a Tobago-based crowd, but between Wednesday and Thursday, we have these same foreigners coming across. And in 2020, it manifested. We had a team of 60 from England that came specifically for Soca After Mass, with a mix of the trainees that would have come across, as well as those who reside in Tobago. And the event really flourished, I would say. We took the risk joining with Mount Irving Beach Resort. They came on board and they partnered with us. And we said to the hotel, listen, we are going to fill you out for this period. Take the chance with us and come on board. And we were able to sell out the hotel, and we hosted all the events at the hotel. We hosted them at the poolside and on the beach. And it really worked in 2020. And our event in 2020 was the last official FET before COVID lockdown.
Right.
All right. So the demand is there, and persons have been asking, is Sam coming back for 2023? And we answered the call.
Yeah. But Iconic Mass is your baby, so to speak. What exactly is Iconic Mass?
All right. So the name of the entity is Iconic Events, and we started off with Soca Aftermath series. With the announcement of Tobago hosting its own carnival last year, we decided, listen, our vision has always been through entertainment to help bring tourism to the island. And here's a product, Carnival, a tourism product, coming on board on the island. Let us participate. So we named the band Iconic Mass, and we decided to come out with 3 sections and participate in this inaugural Carnival for Tobago. It was a success in terms of our experience and our exposure. Our masqueraders definitely had a blast, and they are waiting for the 2023 version. All right. We saw the opportunities that can be improved upon come next year, but come this year, 2023. And we really need the state to get involved, the agencies of the state, in terms of the inter-island transport system. I've been clamoring for that for a little while, and we really need in advance to predict the load that needs to come to Tobago to make the carnival viable.
All right,
we realize,
Go ahead, you say we realize?
Yeah, we realized that in marketing our costumes for October going there, we launched in July. And in building up to October and marketing the costumes, we were getting sales from Tobago. But in trying to woo the masquerader from Trinidad, the challenge for them would have been, how do I get to Tobago? And accommodation. We were able to partner up again with accommodation partners and get room stock, right? A limited amount, because we're a small band. We were aiming for this about 100 masqueraders. And we were able to get room stock. But when it came around to getting the flights and the boat tickets, it became a challenge. I don't know if you know, Andy, but to get a boat ticket, the schedule only comes out 2 months in advance. A carnival follower, somebody who wants to come and participate, they need time to plan, right? They need 3-4 months to plan. So that the port side was a bit of a challenge. And then we checked the Caribbean Airlines portal constantly, looking for tickets to see how we could market it as a package. And the tickets just weren't there, right? I mean, we got an intervention in the mid-October from Caribbean Airlines, and they were able to facilitate a vast majority of the bands, but it was just a small capacity. And at that stage, it was a bit too late.
All right, so with that experience, what may be happening now to address that in the months to come?
I think, given that a postmortem is still outstanding for Tobago Carnival, we need to have the postmortem with the stakeholders as soon as possible and have the conversations now with the inter-island transport entities. Because from now, we know we could anticipate what the load will be in October. Tobago has different festivals during the year. And the same agencies, they have the data. When is the peak period for persons who look to travel from Trinidad to Tobago? So I'm saying, let us work it out. If we need to put on extra loads on particular weekends, this is something we can plan from now.
So why is it that at this point there has not been a postmortem of what happened in October to avoid the same kind of bottlenecking, the same kind of challenges you would face in a couple of months from now?
Well, that's a concern that we have as a band. We have not been invited to any official postmortem hosted by the Tobago House of Assembly.
And you're saying that, I mean, that is diplomatic. You're saying there has been none, and so you can't be invited to any, right?
As far as I'm aware, there has not been any official postmortem. Yeah, and that is key in planning for the 2023. We need to know the pros and the cons, what worked well for us in our sector, which is the bands, the mass bands, and to plan going forward for 2023.
What else you could say about the system with the ferries that they only put out schedules 2 months in advance? I mean, that is counterproductive, at the highest level.
That's the modus operandi of the ferry service. We have been, as a Tobago Union, we know that you can only look to purchase a ticket within 2 months of your travel date. The inter-island ferry service does not publish any tickets before.
But what is the rationale for that?
Well, the Port Authority may be best suited to answer that, because it beats us. I cannot sit here now in January and decide, okay, for Easter, that I want to go to Trinidad for a particular weekend to do whatever. I can't purchase a ticket from now. On the plane side, with Caribbean Airlines, yes, we can purchase that ticket. But the Port Authority, based on their system, that's just how it is. So we have to adapt and try to deal with that, even in our planning of events.
That's craziness, because when it comes down to the time when the tickets become available, it's a mad scramble and a mad rush down on the port. I mean, I haven't been so adventurous to take the ferry, but I pass a lot of times and seeing people when that happens, and I found out that it's madness. People trying to plan their things months in advance, where you have to wait for this time period, this window that opens shortly before you have to go, and something has to be fixed about that.
Correct. And we experienced it firsthand for the iconic mass in October. When the tickets became available, I remember we got the notice that, hey, the tickets are out for October. And within a day, for that period, it was already sold out.
It is spent.
So, I mean, it says that there is a demand. My point is, let's make it available 120 days in advance so persons can plan. Yeah, and we as the mass bands, we can really benefit, because yes, a lot of persons would have purchased tickets, but were they mass players? A lot of persons came to the island during that period to spectate. The Burna Boy concert was on at that time. So a lot of persons took advantage of the tickets and would have attended that particular event. But for us as mass bands, we wanted a period where, even if some of these tickets could have been reserved for us, so that for a short time period that we could now market it as a package to our masqueraders, that you purchase your costume, you purchase your plane and or your boat ticket to get to Tobago, right? As well as your accommodation. We sell that package, and that way a person can have that peace of mind knowing, hey, I am booked 4 months in advance to come to Tobago. I know where I'm staying. I know who I'm playing with. I know my activities that I'm going to be involved in.
I want to go back on the question of reviewing what happened in October and planning for going forward. So when is it at all apparent as to when these discussions would take place?
That I am not privy to, but we are sitting with high anticipation, because we have already started planning Iconic Mass for 2023, a different approach, and we listen to the masqueraders, and I must say, to the 100 masqueraders that would have played with us for 2022, we know come 2023 we're going to double or even triple, because everybody enjoyed the quality of product that we would have given.
All right. What are your views? What's your response to this allocation of $1.3 million for a carnival anywhere?
So, well, the 1.3, Tobago's portrayal of carnival at the National Festival stage in February is much smaller than what happens in Trinidad. I know the 1.3 for us, the mass bands is not sufficient. Ms. Bedlow is one who is keen on clamoring to give us a fair share of the pie, because there are different dynamics when it comes to the mass in terms of the competition aspect, the different grants that are usually afforded to the bands to help get us ready for that road presentation. The 1.3 can seem daunting, Andy, and I mean, it's something that I believe the state needs to put a little more emphasis on in terms of assisting the bands and encouraging us to come out on the road. Even though, yes, Tobago's production is smaller than what happens in Trinidad.
All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it there, Mr. Sandy, and we want to wish you all the best for Soca after Mass.
Soca after Mass. Tobago is the place to be.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so let's take a first look around the region. Now we go to Guyana, a story about a demolition having taken place days after residents of a community called Caneview Mocha homes were bulldozed by the government. They lashed out at the administration over what they considered to have been violent removal. And we have a report on that from News Source Guyana.
One day after their Caneview Mucka homes were bulldozed by the government amid a fierce confrontation with the police, the affected residents have lashed out at the PP Civic administration over the violent removal, which has left some 7 families homeless. Siobhan Eastman, who was arrested as she attempted to safeguard her home on Thursday, told News Source that President Irfan Ali and his administration should hold their heads in shame over the treatment meted out to the people of Caneview in Mucka.
Shame on thy president. Shame on you. You dissed me. Because, and you know why I see it as a diss? From day one, we wrote letters and we signed our name. And we sent it to different ministries. And they never reach out to us. We sent it to the president's office. And they never reach out to us. And that's why I know they made up their mind from day one. This is it.
The businesswoman whose house and business establishment were both reduced to rubble said she is still in shock and disbelief. She explained that the decision to demolish the 7 remaining houses along the stretch came at the time when residents were still in negotiation with the Central Housing and Planning Authority. It was explained that while the CHNPA published notices in the press, the affected residents were never served with written notices.
Yes, you are the government. We are not fighting you. You know what I would say? We are not fighting the government. We engage these people many times. We spoke to Mr. Charles, we spoke to Aaron, we spoke to this person, we make appointment to see the CEO, we make appointment to see the minister, and what? It's a back and forth situation we went on. And the government could do it in a better manner. We are humans. We are not the pig that was in the mud yesterday. Because you know how I see it? They treat me like a pig. You understand? They treat me like that thing that is living, that we mining in the pen, like a sow. You understand me? I see it as gross disrespect.
Eastman and her brother, who was also arrested, were released from police custody last night. With their homes demolished, they were forced to seek refuge at family and friends. Along with some other displaced persons, she returned to the area today that she once called home. Some of the families have also disputed reports that they have agreed to any compensation package from the government. When News Source returned to the Caneview area today, residents were combing through the rubble to see what could be salvaged. Former minister under the coalition government, Simona Brooms, visited the location today also, and she spoke with the now homeless residents. Ms. Brooms said the actions of the government were unconscionable.
By police to destroy your home, your business, broke up your clothes, broke up your stove, broke up every single thing. Yeah? That is oppression. It is wicked. I don't care what nobody Everybody said, and at the same time, you know, this is not squatting land, this is ancestral land, this is Moko.
The former government minister said there is no justification for the treatment meted out to the residents, and the government should be held accountable and must be held responsible. The government has defended its decision and saying that the residents were in the way of development.
I just to watch how a building, a dwelling, could be, you know, just reduced to rubble with one stroke. We will take a break. We have news at the top of the hour, which is seconds from now. On the other side of that, we're talking about living senior in Trinidad and Tobago with Erica Morgan, Eastview Senior Living Trinidad and Tobago. We talk about what that is. Stay with us.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister accuses Wademark of misleading the population. Former Senate President weighs in on presidential pick. Opposition condemns the non-dismissal of National Security Minister. And internationally, California braces for severe storms after 12 killed. Now for the details. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has sought to respond to opposition Senator Wademark regarding his remarks on Senate President Christine Kangaloo's nomination to be head of state. The Prime Minister said this was a clear attempt to mislead the population.
The bottom line is that there are people in this country who set out deliberately to mislead the population, and I will go as far as to say to incite the population. This is fear-mongering of the worst kind, and is purely for one purpose: to cause the population to be incited against the actions of the government.
In a conference held on Monday afternoon, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said this move is within the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister said that Kangaloo's seat would become vacant on her exit from the Senate.
I want to repeat that for the public who has been fed all the horse manure coming down from the UNC and those others who talk about the Constitution because they are rooting their argument against the government's actions in unconstitutionality. This is what the Constitution says for all of us. Where a member of the Senate or the House of Representatives is elected as president, his seat in the Senate or House of Representatives, respectively, shall thereupon become vacant.
Dr. Rowley also confirmed that Kangaloo has gotten the full support of the government.
As I speak to you now, she has been duly nominated by probably all the members of the government side, because the opposition having indicated that it will have no part of it. We have a duty to put in at least 12, because you need 12 nominees to make the nomination valid, and all our members were keen, and I suspect that they would have all have signed.
While former Senate President Timothy Hamill Smith says the process for the selection of a president should begin with what is expected of the prospective candidate.
At very least, you'd think that if we started with what does the process require, what do we want to see in a president, you might get consensus around that. But if you don't start there, then politicians being politicians, I doubt you'd get very much consensus if you just put personalities on the table.
Speaking on WESN's AM Prime, he explained that a lack of due process will create undue contention on both sides of the divide. He weighed in on the disadvantages that government's pick Christine Kangaloo could face.
She's now had, perhaps one hand tied behind her back. She starts regardless of her potential, she starts with a limitation, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
If she's able to overcome that, that depends a lot, but the bar is set so much higher for her to do so.
Opposition PRO Dr. Kirk Mayhew has condemned the Prime Minister for the failure to dismiss the National Security Minister. This comes following the latest murder of a child, 6-year-old Kylie Maloney, on Sunday.
Prime Minister Keith Rowley irresponsibly, cruelly and bullheadedly stands by the abject failure, incompetent and embarrassment Fitzgerald Hines as Minister of National Security. For the sake of our people and especially our children, Keith Rowley, Fitzgerald Hines and the entire government have to go in the soonest possible time.
In international news now, California is bracing for more severe weather this week, with forecasters warning of an incoming relentless parade of cyclones. The U.S. state has already suffered a week of torrential downpours and damaging winds that killed 12 people in 10 days, Governor Gavin Newsom said. More than 120,000 people are still without power as of Monday morning. The governor warned on Sunday that the most brutal weather is due within the next 48 hours. Well, that was your news of the hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship Mac Bean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
Welcome back to the program. Moments from now, we'll be talking with Ms. Erica Morgan, manager of Eastview. It's a place for senior living in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll get to her on that. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what's happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. The embassy of China donated 600 multi-purpose pens to the Joseph Nathaniel France General Hospital. We have this report from ZIZ.
St. Kitts and Nevis Ambassador to the Republic of China, Taiwan, His Excellency Danya Francis, paid a courtesy call on Premier of Nevis Honorable Mark Brantley and Senator Honorable Janelle Nisbet, Minister of Health in the Nevis Island Administration, on Friday at the Premier's office. This was Ambassador Francis's first official visit to Nevis since his appointment to the post. The ambassador brought with him a donation of specialized multipurpose pens from one of the embassy's partners in Taiwan that will be distributed to employees in the Ministry of Health. The pens are specially made with a compartment for sanitizer with a capped spray nozzle at the top. Ambassador Francis said, quote, "As a global health and development major, I thought about the health professionals in St. Kitts and Nevis and said, let me donate these pens so that we can reduce the instances of health institution-based infections, especially during this season when the flu and other illnesses are appearing and COVID-19 is still lingering in St. Kitts and Nevis," end quote. Premier Brantley welcomed Ambassador Francis to the island and thanked him for the gift, which he said will surely assist the Ministry of Health in its work in the Nevis Island Administration. Senator Nisbet expressed her pleasure at having the opportunity to meet with Ambassador Francis, also registering her gratitude for the donation. She wished him well in his tenure as a foreign diplomat.
All right, so let's take a look at what's happening in Barbados now. This story here. 90% of the people battling drugs and substance abuse there are men. This revelation was made by the Minister of Home Affairs, Wilfred Abrams, during a service at the Church of the Nazarene in the parish of St. Michael.
Speaking on the sidelines of the church service, Minister Abrams said 9 out of 10 people with substance abuse problems are men. Noting there's no escaping that reality, he added that there needs to be a focus on young men in particular.
During this month, look out. We're going to put a lot of information out there. Digest it, read it, understand it. It may not apply to you, but it may help you to spot an issue developing or an already crystallized issue in somebody close to you or somebody you love. And unless we know what to look for, we can't help the persons. Unless we know what to do, we take them no further down that road. So for this month, let us learn as much as we can about the scourge of illegal drugs, about substance abuse in all its forms, and let us apply that knowledge and that information to try to wipe it out in our communities and our families, because it all redounds to the benefit of Barbados if we get this under control.
Earlier in his address to the congregation, the Home Affairs Minister also spoke about the impact of substance abuse on the workplace.
Additional research shows that employees who use illicit drugs miss 10 times more work days than other employees. They're 3 times more likely to injure themselves or somebody else on the job. And the employee having trouble with alcohol operates at 50% efficiency and averages 22 lost days per year, and costs the employers a minimum of $1,500 to $4,000 per year in lost productivity.
He said the NCSA is playing its part in helping to address the problem.
The NCSA is aggressively developing its research and data collection capacity to properly and scientifically inform its programming and responses. The Council recently concluded a workplace survey, and its findings will be used to improve drug education in the workplace, as well as assist with crafting workplace drug policies, both in the public and the private sectors. Against this backdrop, I commend the NCSA for staying ahead of the curve.
Recent research by the NCSA has also reinforced the notion that substance abuse is not only a problem among young people. Manager of the NCSA, Betty Hunt, referenced the findings of a study and highlighted the point.
Based on information contained in the 2021 report of the Barbados Drug Information Network, when one looks at the age of distribution of persons admitted to the psychiatric hospital for treatment, 19.9 or almost 20%, 1/5 of all persons admitted for substance abuse treatment were 51 years and older. And I saw a category of 61 and older. So church, I want to address you. Your intervention cannot be solely tied to young people. You must recognize the vulnerability of some of the older generation who are now in need of your support.
The NCSA official called on the church to reach out and help rebuild lives and support individuals, families and communities in the fight against drug abuse and addiction.
All right, back inside here now. We're talking now with Ms. Erica Morgan. She's the manager of a facility called Eastview Senior Living TT, and that stands for Trinidad and Tobago. What's it's about? There was a story in one of the newspapers just a couple of weeks ago, so we get behind it now. Caring for the elderly. Ms. Morgan, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk about what this Eastview, well, first of all, where is it?
Eastview Senior Living TT. It's located in Piarco, St. Helena Village, Piarco to be exact. And we are here to serve the elderly community. So that's where we're located.
How did it come about?
That's a story. Now, I am the managing director of Eastview Senior Living. It came about where I had a passion, I still have a passion for the elderly. I am a nurse. I did elderly care. I graduated actually from nursing school in 2000. I started off with elderly care and adult care and fell in love. Since then, I've been doing elderly care. I have worked at different facilities throughout the States. I've done flu shots and pneumonia shots for the 5 boroughs of New York, where we only cater to the elderly at different facilities, different adult daycares, nursing homes. So it's something that I'm just passionate about. I moved to Trinidad when my dad fell ill, and the care wasn't what I was used to giving. So I came back here and I took care of him. He was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they gave him three weeks actually. He lasted 6 months. So with that, I just thought that I had to be here and to extend my care in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's been a process that I've been working on, and Eastview Senior Living TT was formed.
With whom did you associate to get it going and to set it up?
It was a lot of work, a lot of help from friends. Actually, this is just the start of what's to come. My perfect idea of Eastview Senior Living is really a village for the elderly, where they come in, they live, they have their own ATM machine, their supermarket, everything that they will need, their restaurants. That's the really grand idea for Eastview. However, it takes investment and a lot of time. So I said, you know what, we need to start. So as of last year, right after COVID, I just started running. We all got on board and got a place. Wasn't good enough, and kept looking until we found this beautiful facility. It's over 10,000 square feet. We have a lot of grounds where the elderly can do gardening and just do their exercises or just walk, just be outside when that time is needed. So, yeah, we found that place.
Yeah, and you said you operated previously in areas having to do with adult daycare. In the minds of a lot of people, you don't put those two things together, because when you're talking daycare, you're talking children. What's the special fee? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the adult daycare, that's a whole other entity that we really need. It's there, we have it going on here, but it really needs to be pushed a little more. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you work, you have your elderly parent or relative staying with you, but they're getting to this age where you don't want to put them in a home yet, but they still need care. So you drop them off on your way to work. You pick them up after. They get their full care at the facility. They engage in whatever activities that's going on at the facility. They get their meals, and it's that sort of thing. That's one part of it. You also have where you may be traveling and you also have an elderly. And what do we do with grandma or mom? So you just don't go on your vacation. This is where at Eastview, you can bring your elderly. They stay, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, however long your stay is, and they get taken care of as well. So that's a part of our adult daycare program.
Yeah, and so I'm sure you're familiar with the term "once a man, twice a child," right? So that is a manifestation of that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And we have to know that the elderly are the ones that brought us here, that took care of us when we were children and even as adults. So it's only right that we treat them with the kind of care and love that they need. So I think Eastview is going to do that. I actually know that Eastview is going to do that. Just give the elderly the care that is needed, and we move forward with that.
Yeah, and so you said you developed this skill and proficiency in New York and so on. So caring for the elderly is a specialty within a specialty, right? And taking up on that point about the second childhood, sometimes some of the people in this trade tend to treat elderly people as children. You have to be careful as to how you do it, right? You learn to do that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
That's the truth. The thing is, it's about passion, one. So you have to have the passion for taking care. You have to have a lot of patience as well, because elderly people tend to be a little slower. You think, well, they're supposed to know this. No, they forget. They need that nurturing, just as you would a child. You also have to continue to educate your staff. So you have to do what we do, or plan on doing rather, is training, continuous training twice a year, where we do training with the staff so they are reunited with what they have learned and whatever is new on the market as far as care and devices that may come out. So the caring has to be a learning that you continuously do and a passion as well, and a lot of patience.
Yeah. You say it will become that place that you have in mind. So you have sort of other ideas about continuing to develop it and get it to the point where you want to get it to.
Absolutely. As I said, this is like our stepping stone. ISU is really a place where we want to have a village, like I say. You're going to have apartments where if you're returning to Trinidad, or even if you decide to come to Trinidad as a visitor or as you can come to ISU. We have apartments where you can rent or lease rather, and live as long as you have your life that span. You have restaurants. It's going to be just beautiful. You will want to come to ISU then and now.
Yeah, and so at the moment, how many people you are responsible for in that sense?
Now or then? Now?
Yeah.
We are going to be able to house about 14 to 15 residents living. And because we have a lot of space, the facility is very spacious, we can do about another 10 or 12 visiting or actually adult daycare residents. We have a lot of room for that. So we can do quite a bit.
Talk about sort of examining the qualifications probably, but also the temperament of people you're going to hire. What do you look for in hiring people to help you do this job? Because you have to be very careful, like one imagines, to pick the right people with the right approaches to this, right?
Yes, you do. So our staff are highly qualified geriatric nurses. They are experienced nurses. I had someone that just graduated and she said, well, where would I learn? Where would I get my experience from? I said, sir, we're not going to hire you. It's just that once you get here, we are going to train. We are going to retrain so that the workers, the staff can follow our protocol. We have a schedule in which the residents are going to be taken care of. So, yes, you have to be careful with who you're going to hire. But, yeah, that's what we do. You get the right people.
So you don't take stuff written on a piece of paper, whether it's a certificate, whether it's a diploma, or anything like that. You don't take that for granted. You put them through some paces, one imagines, to make sure that they fit your bill.
Absolutely. They're going to follow a plan of care. You're going to have the doctors do that plan of care where the residents are going to be taken care of as they should, and not just sit all day looking at the television, taking care of them. No. We have a plan of care. We have an activity personnel that's going to be after breakfast, and they get settled. It's going to run that program for the few hours until lunch. Then we go into whatever the evening activity is going to be. So, yeah, we have a full scheduled program that's going to be offered to our residents.
Do you have a general kind of sentiment about how, as a society, we are prepared to treat with the elderly? Because we're becoming, all the numbers are saying that we're becoming more and more of a senior society country than probably ever before.
Absolutely. The thing is, research has shown that people are living, and this is globally, elderly people are living 10 to 20 years longer than before. So our elderly population is up there, and it's going to continue. So we do have to put things in place. there is a stigma that people think that, oh, I'm not going to go to a nursing home. It's the last thing I'll do. But people need to know that there are really, really good homes out there. And as soon as we get regulations in place and, people are going to be able to understand that the care is there, you have to really want to go, you have to understand what's out there and do your research. But there are good homes out there because there are going to be a lot of elderly people that needs the care. At least 47% of elderly people needs additional care. The other percentage will get that care at home, but at least 47% of the elderly people will need care from elsewhere. So it's something that is needed, and I ask that people give it a chance. Yeah.
You say you're encouraging more people to give it a chance.
Absolutely, meaning that they allow their elderly to live the life that they deserve. Not that they're not going to get it at home, but once you get into a really well-run facility, they get to be among their peers, they get to be engaged, they get to do activities, they get to, for instance, there is that Maloney swimming pool that just opened. I would like to go and sign up my residents there. For those who are interested in something like that, where you can go a couple times for the week and engage in what's available.
Yeah, you said earlier that there's space for gardening. Correct me if in my thinking, and I'm thinking, that is for males. What is there for the females? But probably I'm not taking into account that women do gardening as well and farming as well.
Listen, right now, everyone needs to know that you need to start gardening if you haven't started already. So yes, because the facility where we are now has a lot of room for gardening, that's something that we will be doing. I also got some teas, some different organic teas that I would like to start a tea garden so that my residents and clients can be engaged in afternoon tea. So yeah, we are going to be doing gardening. We're going to be planting what we're eating, and they are going to be involved as best they can. Of course, we're going to have a gardener follow-up, but yeah, it's a big, big part of what we are about, because we are going to be growing what we're going to be eating.
What are the I'd say the positive attributes of engaging in gardening of any sort, whether it's plants, whether it's edibles and so on? What does that do to the psyche, to the mind?
It's therapeutic. It's therapeutic in a sense where you go out there, you get the vitamin D, you get your nice little sun going on, you get to pick what you're going to eat and wash it. It's just, where they are part of what they're doing. They're not just being, okay, here's your food. They know that they were the ones that put that on the table by pruning it and taking care of it. So therapeutic reason, plus for things are expensive these days. So you really want to start planting and being a little more economical as far as food is concerned, and for health reasons. You can really plant your food organically where you don't have to have all that pesticides and stuff in it. So it's healthy as well.
All right, Nurse Eric Morgan, thank you very much for talking with us. And we want to congratulate you and salute you for that effort. The manager of this facility developing called Eastview Senior Living TT. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you I want to thank Calvin Blaze and Spectrum One for making this interview possible. So thanks a lot for having me.
You're very welcome. We will stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, just before we go on this edition of the program, let's tell you something that's happening further afield in the world. Let's hear this story. But a heavy fog coupled with a protracted cool wave forced the authorities in New Delhi, and that's in India, to ground flights and the first school reopenings yesterday. Take a look.
Particularly very, very cold. This cold wave has been persisting in New Delhi since the last 4 to 5 days. And today it's particularly very cold. Last night the temperature dipped to 1.9 degrees Celsius in some parts of Delhi. And the visibility has dropped to less than 50 meters, which has prompted authorities to close down schools until the 15th of January. It's been almost 24 hours that the city is covered under a thick layer of dense fog. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued a red alert and has warned people not to step out unnecessarily. And it has also said that this cold wave is going to persist for at least 24 hours, not only in Delhi but also in other parts of North India like Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Several flights, up to 150 flights have been cancelled, and also 250 trains have been cancelled, and many have also been delayed. This cold wave has also led to another major issue, and that is of bad air quality, which has returned to Delhi and reached a hazardous level. The PM 2.5, the tiny pollutants that damages your lungs, has reached to 550, which is 100 times the daily maximum recommended by the World Health Organization. So definitely the city is facing double punishment, that is of cold weather and bad air quality. Even the breathing simply feels like a heavy task. Eyes are burning, and it's not only the cold that people can tolerate by wearing layers of clothes, but this air quality is really very, very intolerable right now.
And very briefly, Navadita, I know that the air quality is poor, polluted, plus this dipping temperature, and all this while people don't have heaters in their homes, do they?
To be honest, not everybody, because not everybody can first afford heaters, plus electricity bills. Like Delhi is not a homogeneous society. Some people can afford, and there are electricity supply which is continuous, but other parts of Delhi is also facing power cuts. So it's not that everybody can afford to keep themselves warm in this punishing cold wave.
And that report, of course, from our friends at France 24. Well, that's our broadcast for this edition of the program. We thank you for watching. We thank our guests. And we tell you, you can always keep in touch with us here at AM Prime at WESNCC. Check us out on all our social media platforms. You can send your emails to amprime@wesncc.com. In about half an hour, we have news at the top of the hour, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Shah and Small. But for now, I'm Andy Johnson. We're going to see you tomorrow.
WESN.
Living in victory every day.
Inspire, motivate, encourage, hope. It's about topical issues. It's about everything that you would want to know about hope, about life. At the end, you're going to say, yes, if he can do it, I can do it too. If she can, I can do it too.
No matter what they say, living in victory every day.
Nicole Lawson Live, living in victory every day. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on WESN.
I'm Keaton Shaw, and we are WESN, the content capital. What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point
weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation,